Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I touched on this story last week when a complaint was made by a constituent that both Ross Greer and Nicola Sturgeon, or rather neither Ross Greer and Nicola Sturgeon, had helped this particular constituent, and he's made a formal complaint. Now, this complaint is now being taken seriously, seriously enough that that they are now officially under investigation by the presiding officer in Holyrood, and it's something that they're probably not used to seeing. They're not used to having themselves questioned, and of course, being the two different parties, one obviously Greens and one obviously the SNP. It seems that these two have sort of coalesced into one, and they're both sort of lazy incompetents. Now, I will point out here, and I think it's worth you hitting the subscribe button just for that image alone. But if you look at the thumbnail of this video, I've used some very nice software, and I've merged the face of Ross Greer and Nicola Sturgeon, and so you'd see what their offspring would look like. It's actually quite disturbing, isn't it? That is what. If you mix Greer and Sturgeon, you get a Gorgon. And I think that's more or less what we're at. Anyway, we'll take a look at this story, see what's going on, see why these two incompetents are being investigated and what the problem has been. Anyway, here goes. So, as Gross Rear and the fishwife are under investigation as the presiding officer looks into complaints. Boy, don't want to open that tin of worms. There'll be loads of them. Anyway, a constituent has complained that both Nicola Sturgeon and Ross Greer have abandoned him, in part because of accusations of abuse online. There's Alison Johnson. Holyrood's presiding officer has confirmed investigations are underway into formal complaints against two sitting MSPs. Glasgow man Thomas Ingram, who lives in Green MSP's Ross Greer's West of Scotland constituency and has a business in Nicola Sturgeon's Glasgow Southside region, submitted complaints about both of them. I wonder if it's the same complaint or if there's two different complaints. We'll probably find that out. I don't know. This is a cold read for me. Mr. Greer refused to look into a long-running dispute with Glasgow City Council over allegations of pollution at his wife's veterinary surgery, citing Mr. Ingram had been abusive on social media. Mr. Ingram denies the claim and accuses Mr. Greer of discrimination, although he admits he has been critical of the Greens on X, formerly Twitter. Everyone can be critical. You're allowed to complain. As long as he wasn't directly abusive, that's absolutely fine. I'm never, ever directly abusive against old Greer. He can't help that he looks like a child and acts like a petulant child and has the intelligence of a banana. He just can't help that. He's also a very petty little man. And I don't mean little short like Harvey. I just mean little in character. Very petty-minded, prissy little mummy's boy. That's what he is. Now, is he going to complain that I've been abusive online? Or is he just going to suck it up like the big brave boy he is? Anyway, he took issue with Miss Sturgeon's office. This is the complainant. I took issue with Miss Sturgeon's office for incompetent handling of the complaint. Sturgeon? Incompetent? Shudder the thought. Mr. Ingham complained that neither have justifiable reasons for refusing to help him, and they say and said that they have broken the rules laid out in Section 8 of the Code of Conduct for MSPs. In confirmation emails signed off by the Right Honourable Alison Johnson MSP and seen by the Scottish Express, she states for both MSPs, the rules that MSPs are expected to follow are set out in Section 8 of the Code of Conduct for MSPs. It is expected that an MSP will take on a constituent's case when approached unless they have a legitimate reason for not doing so. And as presiding officer, I am responsible for considering a complaint that an MSP has not taken on a constituent's case. They're legally obliged to. I mean, unless the complainant is, official. What's the word? there is a term where you can be critical, but unless you go over this particular line, I can't remember. There is a thing about offensively critical, I think the term is. You can call someone an idiot and now take on my case. That's fine because it's not offensive. It's critical, it's insulting, but an insult may not necessarily be offensive. But I think it is. You've got to pass a threshold, and they're allowed to get out of it, and that is in the rules. Anyway, I will look into this matter for you. This is Alison saying this. I will look into the matters for you that you've raised in the complaint, and I will contact you again when I have completed my inquiries. Speaking about his interactions with Mr. Greer, who stands by his response, Mr. Ingram has previously told the Scottish Express, which is when I first reported it last week, his whole office have discriminated against me because they don't like what I've said about their party. But I have never been abusive. Apparently, one's critique is another person's abuse. Yeah, but I'll actually be straight up and abusive. He's a tosser. Miss Johnson can either dismiss one or both as procedurally defective or escalate the matter to the Convener of Standards, Procedures and Public Appointments Committee, who will treat it with the utmost seriousness. And let's hope that this is what indeed happens. Ross Greer obviously doesn't want to help because somebody hurt his little fee-fees, because he's such a prick, isn't he? He is such a prick. There's no other way to describe them. I wouldn't even call him a man. The boy Greer. He's such a little tosspot, isn't he? A spokesperson for Nicola Sturgeon said, "We do comment on individual cases, but when approached to take up a half of a constituent, we also do everything possible to assist." I think they mean we do not comment on individual cases, and yet they should, because this is a particular case. The Greens declined to comment because they're scared as well. Not one of them has a spine. It's all those vegan meals, very, very soft-boned, or in some cases, no-boned, particularly spines. Or balls, apparently. Anyway, there we are. So one's a coward and one's an incompetent. I won't call Sturgeon a coward. I will call her incompetent and possibly crooked. Him, on the other hand, what a knob. Anyway, I'm going to round off and come up. Well, there you are. There wasn't much to the story. It's an ongoing thing. But when it does change, we do get more news. I definitely will come back. We will follow this up. But it is nice to see that they can be held to account. Now, of course, I wouldn't call Sturgeon a coward. Many things I would call her, not a coward. I will say that I suspect she's crooked. I will say I suspect she's corrupt. I will say that she's definitely occasionally incompetent and ignorant and unknowing. But you never call her a coward. You've got to give her that. Him, on the other hand, he's a funny little speck of humanity, isn't he? Being green and vegan, I suppose, hasn't developed all his bones. Certainly not his spine. Anyway, I shall finish there. Like I say, it's just an ongoing story which we will hopefully get a good conclusion to. Till then, stay safe, stay well, and stay out of the way of Ross Greer, because he would cover you with his appalling little ways. Ugh, creepy little man. Bye.